The following is a production of the Dallas Genealogical Society. For more information, please visit our website at dallasgenealogy.org.
Okay, and I just discovered I didn't hardwire my computer in this time, so I'm using my Wi-Fi, so I'll drop out during the presentation. If I do, Tony, let me know.
Will do.
Okay, and it's the bottom of hour, so I want to welcome everybody to our May meeting. This is the Dallas Genealogical Society's German Genealogy Group. Yeah, it's complaining about my internet. Let me real quick string the wire. Stand by.
Okay, Sue, quick, we need a cat joke or something.
Well, okay, no, how about yesterday's extra credit question from our Chinese genealogy presentation?
Seems appropriate.
The extra credit question that we did yesterday was, what traditions do you still do in your family that are from the old country? Seems like this is appropriate for that group also. So I don't know how you want to handle that, Tony. That's the extra credit question.
Well, I think anybody that has a tradition can just chime in and tell us about it.
I have a tradition.
Go ahead.
We make a cookie called Buttergebackenes, and it takes 2 days. It's a Christmas cookie, and you spend about a week chopping almonds and putting it together and then putting it in the refrigerator, and it's more butter than anything. And it's hard to roll out, and it's sticky. And it got to be well known around Grand Rapids, Michigan, because my mother published the recipe in the local newspaper one year. And of course, nobody makes it because it takes too long and takes too much work. But you dry the cookies overnight, and then you put a mixed egg on the top of them and cinnamon sugar, and they're actually very delicious.
It sounds like the sour. Sounds like the sauerbraten of the cookie world.
Yeah, right.
That's a very lengthy process too.
Okay, all right, well, I'm back and I got the wire strung, so hopefully I'll be a little bit more stable, at least internet-wise. So let me just do a restart then. Welcome to the Dallas Genealogical Society's German Genealogy Group May meeting. I'm Bernard Meissner, one of your co-leaders, and is actually over in Germany doing research this past week. So she's hopefully having good success with that, and we're looking forward to hearing about the results of her trip, probably at one of our meetings in the fall. A reminder of how you can find us on the internet. If you go to the Dallas Genealogical Society's website, then you just look under events, special interest groups, and the German Genealogy Group. And that'll take you to this page here. It's been redone a little bit if you've been there in the past. Now we have the 4 tabs at the top, the info, which again has a way to contact us when we meet. And this one called Previous Meetings has the recordings of most of our past meetings, even before the pandemic. When we first started as a SIG, we had hybrid meetings and recorded those presentations. And with just a couple exceptions, we have recordings of all those previous meetings and all the handouts as well. So those are all available for you to look at your leisure. We also have a Facebook group, now up to 87 members. You can see the little button there. You do the join group, because it is a private group. We do ask a couple of just basic questions of, what names and places in Germany are you researching? And we're doing that as a filter, just so that we only get the people who are really interested in the things we're interested in. So if you haven't yet joined, please be sure to answer those questions, because you don't answer the questions, we don't let you in the group. A reminder that RootsTech has now come and gone, but all the presentations have been recorded, and they are available probably for a couple years. And I just went through and highlighted some of the ones from this year's presentations. So there's a number of different ones there that you can see. And in fact, I have a whole second page of ones as well. So lots and lots of ways to do that. A number of these are short, just 20 minutes. So you don't have to sit there for a whole hour. And you can pick the topics you want and go back and view them when you want, as often as you want. And they do keep them up for a couple years. So even from last year, there's a couple other presentations separate from what they had this year. The link there at the bottom, you just basically go into RootsTech. You can say RootsTech 2022, search for that. And if you haven't already set up a family search free user ID and password, you can log in with that and then make your own playlist. So you can just do a search, which I did on German, and go through and then look at different presentations and say, okay, there's a title that I'm interested in, put that in my playlist, then come back later, log in, say, show me my playlist, and then you've already done your searching, it remembers that, and you can go from there. So lots of great resources from national and international presenters. Now we have a couple coming up even just in the next week. Starting with the German American Heritage Center and Museum in Iowa. They're starting a 5-part series on the 1848ers. There was a lot of social upheaval in Europe at that time. They were trying to get away from having kings and queens and princes and the like, and being a little bit more democratic. Wasn't always as successful as maybe they would have hoped. So some of them decided to just pack up and come to America. So this will be a 5-part series, one each month. And the first one will be tomorrow afternoon. And it is free for members of the center and museum. It's $5 for non-members for each session. And they point out you don't have to go through all 5. You just pay for the ones you might be interested in. And on our Facebook group, I've already pasted the link and some additional information regarding that. Then on Wednesday, the San Diego Genealogical Society's German group has Andrea Benschneider talking about how professional genealogists can help with researching. And this is freely available if you might be interested. It happens to be also one of the ones that's on RootsTech. She did a presentation on that as well. I've used several professional genealogists in Germany to help me with research, particularly for items that are not available online. And even for me to fly to Germany and go to the archive and then figure out the German handwriting and the like, it's often easier and more convenient to just have a professional help you. And sometimes I could just analyze your research and tell you what might be available and where you might be able to look for those sorts of things. And then the German Genealogy Society has Fritz Jungling from the Family History Library. If you've been with us for a while, we did have him as a presenter a while back. And again, that presentation is available through our website. But this one, he'll be talking about the Myers Gazetteer, which is the listing printed in 1912 about every little village, town, populated place anywhere in Germany. So if you've found what you think is the name of the village or town where your ancestors may have come from, this is the way you can go and get more information out of it. Used to be you had to learn the old Gothic handwriting, but some volunteers at the Family History Library digitized the whole thing, linked it up with maps as well, so that if you sort of know the general area, then you can sort of look around for towns that sort of sound like the one you think your town is and work from there. And I'll be posting that probably later this evening, that one, to our Facebook group. And then Legacy Family Tree Webinars this year has been doing what they call a genealogy conference. What it is on like a last Saturday of each month with a different topic each month. This month is German genealogy. They put up available for freely anyone to access including the syllabus associated with each one, 5 presentations. One is always brand new, and then the 4 others are ones, if you have a subscription to Legacy Family Tree webinars, you can view them anytime. So they're just trying to dangle that bait in front of you to see if maybe you want to sign up. But they're just available. There's no set time. And they make them available for a very long day. It starts midnight Greenwich Mean Time and goes all the way till the following midnight Hawaiian time. So that's at least about 19, 20 hours, 30 to 30 some hours it's available. So you can go through, and this is the new one they'll have, Voyages German Immigrants. They have several presentations by Teresa on this one. There we have Andrea again with a different topic. Other than church books and civil records, what other papers, records might there be? You found a town of origin, what do you do with you have that? And then Jim Beidler talking about names and naming patterns. So that again, that'll be Saturday on the 28th, and you just go to the Legacy Family Trees webinar/conference site, and there will be those 5 presentations, and you watch them at your leisure anytime during that extended day. A reminder for our Dallas Genealogical Society has our summer seminar coming up in July. That will be Kelvin Myers, probably known to at least some of you. And this is Finding Ancestors in Land and Probate Records. Kelvin did of the National Genealogical Society's research in the state series. He's the author/editor of the Texas one. And of course, we have lots of Germans that came to Texas, either directly from Germany, or maybe they immigrated to somewhere else first and then ended up in Texas. And that's available, as you saw early on when I went to the DGS website, there's a link right there to that. That's going to be a hybrid presentation, so that you can be physically go to the library in July. Hopefully things will be of a site that we can do that. Or if you want to stay home and view it from the comfort of your home, you can do it that way. So it'll be both access ways to attend that seminar. We also want to recognize Anne. Last Saturday, it was announced that she is the recipient of this year's Dallas Genealogical Society's Volunteer of the Year Award, due in part to all her work to organize this special interest group. And then, of course, she's also serves as the secretary of the society. And she was already over in Germany, so I don't even know if she knows yet that she's won the award. But when she comes back, if she doesn't know already, she will learn that, and we want to congratulate her for a very well-deserved award.
I did text her, so she's aware of it.
Okay, very good. And Tony, if you want to go ahead and put up the poll, this is just to check to see who's here. And we do this because as the special interest groups, if we provide this information every meeting that we have, we'll be eligible to receive some funds from the society that can help us with our work, either in hiring another presenter, or maybe if there's something the library might need or the like. So we appreciate.
I think this is the first group I've ever had 100% participation in, so thank you.
Hey, these are all Germans. Okay, thank you with that. Let's see. Do I have to click the share? Wait, there's an X. There we go. Okay, thanks, Tony. And then our next meeting, we take the summer off, as does DGS. So our next meeting will be on September 10th, second Saturday of the month, 10:30 in the morning. And again, fingers crossed, this will hopefully be a hybrid meeting where we will be back in the library. But as always, you can also attend via Zoom. If you have suggestions for topics, presenters you would like us to include in future meetings, be sure to let Anne and I know. And we're already talking about some topics that we're looking at. but we'll take the summer off from that. But at the same time, if you haven't already joined the Facebook group, we do put things up there probably at least every week or so, sometimes a couple in a week. So over the summer, while we won't be meeting in person, we'll be able to share information with you through the Facebook group. So today we're very happy. We have Susan Kaufman, who is the Senior Manager of the Houston Public Library's Clayton Library Center for Genealogical Research. I include the whole title so she can smile or grimace as she may wish. We know her as the Clayton Library. She'll be talking today about German genealogical resources at the library. She started her career in Peoria, Illinois. Before coming to Texas, she worked at the Allen County Public Library in Fort Wayne, another one of the very large and popular libraries. We're lucky here we have our Dallas Library, and Houston is lucky they have the Clayton Library. Sue is a recipient of the National Genealogical Society's P. William Philby Award for outstanding service as a genealogical librarian. She's a fellow of the Texas State Genealogical Society and is also the past president of the Texas State Society and is currently their director of education. So put your virtual hands together to welcome Sue. And Sue, it's all yours.
Well, thanks,
sharing.
Brian. Hey, everybody. So listen, Bernard, you forgot to mention what is one of the most important awards that I think, along with those other two, was the Lloyd Bachstruck Award in 2019 for genealogical librarianship and what's the word I'm looking for? Contributions to the genealogical community. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And fellow Saluki.
And fellow Saluki with Tony. Yes. Tony and I both went to Southern Illinois. And let's see, was there anything else that I was thinking of? Was the DGS award, and then there was something else, maybe not, but that I wanted to say that was another tie to all of us together. So, hi everybody. Happy Saturday. All right, let's see. So let me get everything organized here. How's that?
There, great.
Okay, I will leave I guess, do we leave our cameras on? Is that what we do?
It's your choice.
Well, I can do that. I mean, and so by all means, I don't know if you want to take questions at the end. I'm fine with that. If there's something in the middle, then we can do that too. However you guys plan on, if you guys are going to turn off your camera, I think I might too. So I think let me just get back there and do that really quick. Let's see, stop video. Okay, great, thanks. So it'll be easier for me. However you want to do it with the questions. Okay, that doesn't,
your choice.
I don't know if there's going to be many. If there's some burning question, then we can go ahead and take the burning question in the center. So thanks for inviting me. I really appreciate being here. It's a great way to wake up and get energized for the rest of the day, 3 hours out on the reference desk this afternoon. So thanks for having me again. And I wanted to mention that, of course, it's certainly possible to find a lot of records on our German ancestors. Even though my last name is Kaufman, it's Romanian. But I can't believe that it's not German at one point. And so given all the boundaries and things like that, but I can say some of the words, but I have asked Bernard to help me when I get to some of those heavy duty German titles that we're going to go over. So one of the most important things is about knowing the town of origin. And even if you don't speak the language, we can do basic record analysis and database searches just by knowing a few key words. So, excuse me. What we're going to do today is we're going to talk about the Special Collections Department at the library. I'm going to go over some research materials that we have at Clayton. I'll talk a little bit about family search, and then I'll talk about using library catalogs and highlighting a couple of those. So let's talk about the Houston Public Library Special Collections first. We are one of 3 separate buildings that the Houston Public Library has. Of course, we are the Genealogy collection, excuse me. And we house an international collection of course, all the stuff that we use for family history, family history, vital records, state and county records, international collection. Our sister units are the African American Library at the Gregory School, which is the first African American elementary school in Houston. And their mission is to preserve Houston and Texas African American history. And they have archives, which also include manuscripts of the Houston African American community. They have a huge funeral program collection, and then they also collect oral histories. Our third sister is the Houston Metropolitan Research Center, which is the local history side of Houston, of the special collections. They are the traditional local history material with local authors, newspaper clippings, business records, community records, and all those sort of larger social history things. But also, as we know, local history includes names, dates, and places too. So they have rare books, and they are the unofficial City of Houston depository, meaning that some of the legal documents do come over to the Houston Metropolitan Research Center. One of the odd things about us is that we are standalone collections. There are not many genealogy collections that are outside of a main public library, as you have in Dallas. It's kind of hard sometimes because we're not all together. So the historic Houston newspapers are down at the Central Library. We do not have the historic Houston newspapers. There are Texas newspapers and Houston newspapers at the Houston Metropolitan Research Center. There's also African American newspapers that are surrounded by Houston at the African American Library. But as family historians, we know that not everything is in one place, and we have to go from place to place to place, because if it was easy, I think that it wouldn't be a hunt, and then maybe a lot of us wouldn't like it, because I think all of us are in for the hunt too. So let's talk about Clayton Library first, or just quickly. So Clayton Library is named after William Lockhart Clayton, and there is a picture there of him with his wife, Susan Vaughn. He was born in 1880 in Tupelo, Mississippi. He got involved in the cotton industry and spent time in New York and in Oklahoma before settling in Houston in the early 1900s. That is the house, the Clayton House, that is on our property. The main library sits on one side, and then the historic home with two other buildings, a carriage house where we do meetings when it's open, and then the guest house, which is a rental property for some businesses in town. But the houses were built in 1917, and there actually is a basement in that house that, yes, does have some water in it, but not much. So he got involved in the cotton industry, got involved with the M.D. Anderson family, not M.D., but his brother. And they developed the Anderson, Clayton and Company Cotton Company. Like I mentioned, his home was built in 1917. He was such a huge business partner, but within the cotton industry, and then also got tapped to be part of the Marshall Plan as an Undersecretary of State. President Truman appointed him in 1946. And also he really supported the American economic aid to rebuild Europe, and then had, like I mentioned, had a strong role in shaping that Marshall Plan. He died in 1966. He really loved library service, he and his wife. His wife died in 1960. He died in 1966, as I mentioned, and he deeded that home to the Houston Public Library. Some of you that might have come to Clayton, I hear often, I've been here since 2006. And in those years, I hear people that have come and say, I remember coming when the collection was over in the house, and nobody would, you'd have to, the librarian would get everything, and it was really very like a stodgy library. But we outgrew the collection, outgrew the house, because of course, family historians never throw anything out. And what happened is then the building across the parking lot was built in 1988. The material was moved from where the Houston Metropolitan Research Center is. The material, the genealogy material, was down there in what we call the Julia Idison building. It was moved out to the house in 68, outgrew the house. 88, the main library was built. So that is where all the research collection is. And of course, we, like you, at at Dallas Public with Ari and everybody there, there is a dedicated staff to help people do family history. All of us in Houston and Dallas are very fortunate to have that, because we know that many libraries just have librarians that are doing children's stories and everything else at the same time and aren't dedicated staff. So we, like there, are trained to listen to your story for 45 minutes and help you find the answer to your question. We have an international collection. We have historical records dating back to colonial and pre-colonial United States history. Our material is organized geographically, as I understand yours is now. Yay! So it makes it a lot easier. Of course, we do programming and outreach, and we, like you, are a partner of Family Search, both as an affiliate library and as a digital library partner. So we too have missionaries digitizing collection from our digitizing material from our collection, as you guys do too. So as we mentioned, our collection is organized geographically, and we have the international sources section, and that is what the stacks look like. And what we have done with every book, including in the international section, we have put labels across the top that will tell you what country you're in or what state you're in, and then or what county you're in. In this case, we're looking at the German books, of the Germany books, and you can see down on the bottom, we shelved by, we don't use Dewey number, we use the genealogy tag, but then the second line is what we call in the library world, the cutter number. So everything is organized alphabetically by country and then by cutter number. But the most important thing in finding in our collection is looking for those labels across the top and then starting to browse the collection. So, all right, let's get started with some of the stuff. It's a technical word, stuff of that's in the German section. All right. Notice that I use the word select. These are select materials that are listed on the handout. All of them are listed on the handout. There is a hot link in the handout to the card catalog. They are not links to digitized material. So you can get the call number if you're interested. You can to come down. You can get all the publication information, so you can maybe find it someplace else. If you don't want to come down, see if Dallas has it. Look on WorldCat to see if other libraries have it. Check the Family History Library catalog, but they are not links to digital images. So the first one we're going to talk about, and I can see Bernard mentioned Jim Beidler, and this is the Family Tree Historical Atlas of Germany by Mr. Beidler. And it is, thank goodness, telling the story through maps from ancient times to present. The bulk of the book is divided up into 8 sections, which of course are the maps. There's a brief introduction that's relevant to the time period or the topic discussed at the beginning of each section. There's a variety of maps. There are historical maps that were either developed during the time period for which they show us, or created after that time period for retrospect. Most of the maps show us political boundaries, but there's other types of maps, such as demographic maps. And most of them are written in German, but there is a village index in the back, but not all the villages, of course, are depicted in the index, just like the old maps that we used to open and unfold and fold, which I really love doing. But the book really is intended to see the history of the lands of our forebears and where they came from. And in order to understand how history changed over the century and how that all affected their lives. Sort of a social history evaluation that might give us maybe a little answer as to why they might have come, and maybe what kind of records that were left behind and where they might be. So maps are really important for boundaries and for places and for name changes. So this is a good one for that. This is a finding aid to the microfilm manuscript collection of the Genealogical Society of Utah, which we now know as Family Search. It's an index of registries to German towns and cities and dates that are covered in the registry of the German collection, which is housed by Family Search. And the reason I show this is you might say, well, why not just look on the Family Search catalog? Okay, well, it's important to use a lot of different sources to discover historical things. So sometimes browsing through these historical books like this is a finding aid that's going to list the name of the holding of the parish or civil registers that are held by family search. So it's divided up by location, and then it lists those parish and civil registers that are held by family search. And it also shows other things like guild records, migration records, medical records, and other things like that. And when you engage a book like this and you turn the pages, just like when you do a very broad search on the internet or you do a narrow search, you discover all kinds of different things. So utilizing historic books like this, we call it citation analysis, looking at bibliographies, can be very helpful in discovering things that you might not discover in other ways. This is an alphabetical listing of municipalities by land that's shown the kind of record that's represented from that locality, the area that the records were filmed, the date spans, and the type of material. So taking that title and searching by place in the Family Search Catalog can then show you whether it was digitized and whether it's available for you to view. So this one's been around for a long time. The German English Genealogical Dictionary by Ernie. We used to call him Ernie Thode. So this is a book that's designed for family researchers who have little or no knowledge of German, the language, but who nevertheless need to make translations. So it's organized and it covers like thousands of terms that are usually defined, and you can see I've given a couple examples, by single words or just brief phrases, quick, quick, quick. All the words, symbols, and abbreviations were chosen on the basis of their association to family history, to genealogy. So this is really a true genealogical dictionary because these words came from church records, civil registrations, correspondence, journals, passenger lists, immigration records, and other things that are used, terms that are used that we need to discover and recognize. So there's all kinds of different categories. There's like, you can find the German words for zodiac signs, place names, liquid and dry measures if you're looking up recipes. Wouldn't that be cool? Types of taxes, calendar days, given names, heraldry, all kinds of definitions. And so using this book in conjunction with a regular German English dictionary very well might give you a better opportunity to translate some of those documents. So this book with a general German English dictionary might help. This is another one for beginning resources, although dated from 2007, again, using it for analysis of what's available and where things are is important. So this is a heavily used, and maybe I don't like to use the word complete because I don't really like to talk in absolutes, but a really good resource for beginning and advanced genealogists. We use this a lot when someone comes in to begin research. There are addresses, of course, for archives and societies. There's migration pattern information for Jewish, Catholic, Lutheran, and Mennonite history and sources. There's some history about Germanic, there's some information about Germanic history, there's maps, there's an annotated list of gazetteers, and gazetteers are geographical dictionaries, so we would know that. So there's that annotated list, just in case you're looking for place names. There's, of course, language help. The book goes into how to get started, how to use records, how to read script. And so it is indexed. And again, as I mentioned, it's a little dated from 2007, but sometimes you need to look at those old books because they still are very helpful in a broad sense and should not be ignored. Okay, Bernard and I talked about this, and Tony we talked about this before. I'm not going to begin to say this name. Bernard, would you like to read it just for fun so I could hear it?
Let's see. Auswanderung aus dem Preußen Hochstift Speyer nach Südosteuropa und Übersee im it's the 18th century.
Yep, that's exactly.
For Speyer, both Southeast Europe and also overseas.
Yep, that's exactly, I put it in Google Translate. And so I got immigration from the former bishopric of Speyer to Southeast Europe and overseas in the 18th century. A documentation in the form of regesta based on documents from the Baden General State Archives in Karlsruhe. So I'm Jewish, so I can kind of, if I would have tried to pronounce it, I think I would have gotten the guttural type of things, but I would have really butchered those words. I found out that a documentation in the form of the Regesta, based on documents from the Baden General State Archives in Karlsruhe, Regestas, their papal Regestas are the copies generally entered in special registry volumes of the papal letters and official documents that are kept in the papal archives. So this one is the General State Archives of Karlsruhe, right? This would make me think that there might be other areas. There might be books for other areas. And the General State Archives, of course, were responsible for keeping old official records from the district and other regional authorities. If there's court files, documents from local authorities, certificates, archives from monasteries. And these state archives offer numerous records for genealogical research, particularly for the time before 1806. So these are like the 18th century, which is the 1700s, right? So it's in the title. But I just thought that this was kind of interesting because it does go that far back. I did not check to see if this was digitized on Family Search. I wanted to pull a couple books off our shelf that I don't know if Dallas has. I would maybe hope that they did. But at the end, if you need research in some of the books that are on the list, at the end, I have our email address and our phone number because we do lookups. So you'll get that just in case you can't find it someplace else. But I thought that this was something that was interesting because it goes way far back. I think we are familiar with the Meyer-Orts books, which actually means Meyer's Place and Traffic Directory of the German Empire. So this is a 3-volume set, and the first volume of this gazetteer contains an explanation of the many abbreviations that the gazetteer uses. However, the gazetteer also indicates if the town had its own parish, but it lists names as they existed, place names as they existed in Germany from 1871 to 1912. It gives the name of the state or province where each town was located. The gazetteer is written in Gothic print, as you can see here. And it is available on Family Search. So you can stare at this Gothic print for hours and hours on end, trying to figure out what it is. Bernard, can you read this? Can you read any of this, Bernard?
Yeah, I used to have a presentation on how you decoded all that before the family history folks put it all online and with link now to maps and the like. So
I think you should still bring it back up and do it. I think it would be worth it. I've got 3 shelves of these books that I would like to be able to use.
Yeah, it mentions if they have a post office or where the nearest train station is and all sorts of interesting little bits and the population. So
well, we're scheduling out for 2023. I think that would be nice. So to get back to the presentation, but it is available, as Bernard mentioned, digitized at Family Search. It's also available at Ancestry, Hathy Trust. And then there are a lot of other German gazetteers. So again, using the Family Search Wiki and searching the term Germany gazetteers will bring up a lot of other opportunities for different gazetteers also. So again, I am not going to try and say this title, but I did translate it, and it's From the Past of the Village of Olinhausen, published by the municipality of, I'm not going to try to say that, Jagshausen, well, maybe I will, Jagshausen and Olinhausen on the occasion of the 1200th anniversary in May of 1981. Olinhausen is a village in Baden-Württemberg in the district of Hildebrand near Jagshausen. And Olinhausen has a population of about 300. That's currently. And as we discussed earlier, Bernard and I, it is a town history. So you can see, I sort of got that out of it just by looking at it, but we can see that there are, I don't know what I'm gathering it's a list of maybe mayors or something over here on the right of important people, and then little biographical information too. So there very well might be a series of these also. Palatine Church visitations from 1609 for the Deanery of Kuzel, which is a group of parishes presided over by a rural dean. So the district of Kusel was situated in the western part of the German Palatinate for many early immigrants to America came. So my understanding in reading is that there was almost permanent residence of the Palatinates in a given area prior to immigration. And using this book can give you the proof that a particular name occurs in this area. And it's almost sufficient evidence for a linkage between the immigrant and his forebears a full century before the Palatine immigration. So there's some church visitations for this district, this deanery. There might be other deaneries. Taking these titles and putting in, since that subtitle is that area, Palatine Church visitations, and then maybe putting in your area to see if books come up, either in Family Search or in WorldCat, which is a worldwide library database catalog. And this is what it looks like inside that book, listing a family. Here's another one. It is the Register of Vital Records for the District West of Baden, a village lineage book. And this Ortssippenbuch is a book of the compiled records from a parish and sometimes other local sources that organize people and their events into a family group. Each family group is usually assigned a number, kind of like when we look at the National Genealogical Society families or the New England Historic Genealogical Society families. That leads to other family numbers, so you go back and back and back so you can begin to connect generations together. Dates are given for births and baptisms, marriages and deaths and burials. Children are listed that are born in the village and if the parents have come from elsewhere. And sometimes you might even find a reference if the ancestor left and immigrated to another country. And just to throw in another map book, this is the Atlas of the German Empire from 1892. There are some maps that were original and also redone. And there also is a general index of localities for this book in the back. Again, searching the time period, knowing what time period you're researching and the area that you're researching might lead you to this book if that's the time period that you're looking for. You should, often when I say to people, when they say they're looking for things on the shelves, I often say that if a book covers the time period that you're researching and it's the area that you're researching, you should pull that book and see if your family's there, because you don't know. Sometimes you don't know how your family interacted in that area, and it might surprise you if you pull a book. This is the Wappenbuch collection. It's a German language series of 35 books that were of German heraldry that were first begun by someone named Johann Siebmacher in the early 1600s. And there have been more editions, which the editions released as recently as 1967. It chronicles the development of surnames as they relate to coats of arms of the German nobility and the prominent families. And these volumes have illustrations of the coats of arms, as well as descriptions of the colors and the symbols used in them. The Wappenbuch collection is also digitized at Family Search, so you can find those there. And then here, I think this is something that we remember, the map guides to the German parish registers. This is a multi-volume set, a map guide, obviously, to help understand and visualize the areas under the jurisdiction of various church parishes, both Catholic and Lutheran, in each specific state in Germany. The volumes are divided up by state And then, so you need to know what state you're talking about, and then there you can find the town. So it's also important to know the town, but there is a town index in the back. And what it does, these books allow you to see the neighboring parishes, of course, which can be useful, to see if maybe somebody had an event someplace else. And then there are family history library microfilm numbers in this book. So you can then go back and look at the family history microfilm if it's been digitized. And so there are other things. So there's some information about the churches, like I mentioned. And so you can also find some lineage books and some other information about major record groups in there. Again, using that for citation analysis, some information about archives and repositories. So again, looking in the book, what else do books, in this example, we open up a book sometimes because it has a map, okay? And we go to the map and then we close the book. But what else does the book have? Use the index, use the table of contents, use the introduction to understand what it is that you're looking at, because although you're going in for one purpose, maybe the source that you're using is broad enough to use it for something else that might answer another question. When we're so focused, we have to look outside sometimes of what we're researching. These are the Deutsche Schlechter book collection, the books that I showed at the beginning with the labels across the top. And it's a German language lineage book pertaining to the prominent and middle-class German families, which was begun in the early 1800s with new volumes published recently as 2007. And it follows a format similar to the lineage books, the US lineage books like the DAR. So even if you have no knowledge of German, you can look for the surnames of interest in the indexes to the volumes, and then look for the symbols. There are symbols that are used: birth, death, and marriage. Remember that these lineage books and a lot of stuff, the digitized material, and everybody says, well, be careful what's out on the internet. We still had to be careful for what was in the books too. So you always want to evaluate what you're looking at when it comes to something like this or submitted information, and decide to take it, decide to reevaluate it, decide to redocument it, or whatever. But just, it's almost just because it's on the internet, just because it's in a book, it doesn't mean that it is exactly right. So you have to be buyer beware of everything that you're looking at. So. And finally, something in English, although we've come across a couple of those, but here's something in English. This is the German immigration ships to New Orleans from 1865 to 1869. This was meant to be a series, and it is basically, it is the transcription from arrival records held by the National Archives. Ports coming into New York are particularly important. Of course, in the early 1800s, we know that they brought many Europeans who were attracted by the abundance of cheap land in Texas and in Ohio and in other places, but those two states. But then of course the immigration stopped during the war. And then after the Civil War, ships began again to port in New Orleans. And many of those ships were flying German flags. Prior to the war, it took forever to come over, 4 to 8 weeks, and it was all by wind. So ships sailed when ships were full. But then the advent of steam and the use of steam cut down on the trip. And then so after the Civil War, there were more regular passages, and so they were shorter. And so they, became more often. So if you're not finding your ancestor in Galveston, you should look in New Orleans, because maybe that's where they disembarked. Especially, there's some Galveston lists that are missing and some other things like that. So remember, by US law, captains of the immigrant ship had to submit a passenger list to the local authorities when the immigrants disembarked. So again, if you're not finding them in Galveston, maybe they went to New Orleans and we just didn't know that happened. So quickly, let's look at family search. Those were the sources that we have. By the way, remember the lists, all the books all the books in your handout, they were hot links. So you can get the call number to the book. Like I said, you can get the publication. You can check the Dallas catalog. You can check WorldCat to see if anybody has them. You can check the family history catalog, and I'll show you that in a second. So you can see if they're digitized. So finding German research on FamilySearch.org. FamilySearch, of course, you know, has changed its interface within the last 2 months, I guess, maybe a little longer. And so, of course, the first box up at the top is the magic box where you're going to put the name. We're going to ignore the name right now. We're going to ignore the name search because you can also find a collection and you can search by place. There are other ways to search other than names. Again, this is becoming a little more directed. It's like, what records are available for the place that I'm researching? What do they contain? How do I use them? And will I find a name? You're coming at it from area, not name. So let's look at the we're going to look at the collection titles section. So you can find a collection. You begin to type, and of course it comes up with the IntelliText. So I just typed in Germany. I just ignored all those options, but you can browse through those to see what databases or what collections are in FamilySearch that are related to Germany. You can even get more narrow, if you will, by putting in Baden, by putting in Württemberg, and it'll still bring up those collections. I just did the broad search. When you do that, you can see that I did the collection title and I just put in Germany. I'm getting 79 results. What that does is it helps answer your research question. Remember, we always should have a research question. I want to do my family history is huge. I want to find out about my ancestor that was born in Germany in 1892, okay? So when you come to the collections, you become evaluating what the title of these collections are after you've identified your research question, and will each one of these, or will one of them, help me to narrow down some of the noise that I would get if I did that really broad magic box name search, okay? So you've identified the area, you've identified your research question, you're looking at collections to see if something will help you answer that research question. When you begin to look at these, you also want to look at the records, see the record numbers. Here on the top one, we have Germany births and baptisms, 300 years, but there's 24 million records. Okay, they may be indexed, they may not be indexed. So you're just going to have to click on them and look, but you can get to collections that way. The other way is searching by place. So I again searched Germany, and what that brings up is it brings up the Germany page. At that point, you can see that you have narrowed down, there are pages there. I mean, there's a search strategy, search boxes there for you. So then at least you're searching in the German records that are indexed. You have to read what you're looking at. When you search that box, you are only searching the indexed historic records, okay? Because that's the only way you're going to find a name, is if it's been indexed. If it hasn't been indexed, then you're going to have to browse to look for the name. There might be an index inside the source that you're looking at, but to do a box search, the records have to be indexed. So there's that. On the left-hand side, learning courses. Jumping into something without learning can be, you can end up spinning your wheels for a long time. So like Bernard said at the very beginning, there's all this learning that we can do to help us become more effective researchers. When you scroll down on that page, we're still on that location page. Again, you can view the wiki for Germany. Again, more education help. And you can see that there are 43 collections there. Okay. Now, there were 79 collections when we did the collection search. There were 43 collections. Why is that? Maybe there's only 43 that are indexed. I don't know why. I didn't really investigate it, I'll be honest. But the point is just like we talked about with the book, the microfilm book, just like we talked about using the collections, just like we talked about searching a place. You have to search a bunch of different places because not everything is in one place. And it would be my suggestion that you keep a record of where you're searching, so if you have to go back and find it, you can find it again. That would be my suggestion. Cite your source, cite your source. So clicking on the wiki, this is the German genealogy wiki. You can see that there's a table of contents. You can talk, it tells you about helping you find your town's province, talks about different clickable maps, territory changes, all kinds of things that we can use to utilize and help us do our research. Country information, getting started, the Germany research tools, hot links out of the Family Search Wiki. The Family Search Wiki is amazing. It's a great place to utilize. So we searched collections, we searched places. All right. The books, the Family Search books. When you go to the Dallas Public Library and you see in that fishbowl, you see them there. Digitizing, this is what they're doing. They're digitizing these books. You have got to search the books individually. When you do a record search, when you do that big magic box search, the books, the names in the books are not returned in that magic box search. The way to get to the books are through searching the books or searching the catalog. All right. When you search the catalog, you have to know the name of the book or find the name of the book by searching an area, and I'll show you. But when you search the books, you can do a general search name. You could put a surname there, and what will return are all the books that have that surname in it. All right, there are almost, well, there's over 500,000, almost 600,000 books right now, genealogy books from libraries like Dallas, like us, like Fort Wayne, like the Pennsylvania, Arizona, Florida, all kinds of places, Canada. There are advanced searches also. Let me go back. You can see that there's an advanced search there. So you can either search keyword, you can search author, you can search title, or you can search subject. And you can do Germany and Baden, not Württemberg. And it'll return books that have those terms in it. I did a subject search. See over there on the left, I did a subject search for Germany. I got 11,000 results. There's like 160 pages. What are 1,100 pages just with the word Germany. And these are the books. You're going to click on them. You're going to be able to search inside of them. You're going to be able to read them. This is an example of some of them. Here's an example of some of the other ones that I have absolutely, seems like the one over there on the right has something to do with Mennonites. Okay, 16th century German. So all these books are available to you. There are blog posts on how to search the books, but just to give you a place to play around with and see what else there is, okay? All right, library catalogs. Family Search Catalog. As I mentioned, using the Family Search Catalog to get to the books or microfilm in this world to find out what sources are available and have been digitized or still in books, you can use the Family Search Catalog. The Family Search Catalog is the big key to everything Family Search. It is the closest that you're going to get to what we call a federated search, searching across all the stuff that's on there. So I did Germany. Here's what you get. It is a catalog, a card catalog, a library catalog in of itself. It also tells you that German place names in this catalog are listed as they are spelled in the following gazetteer in the Meyer Orts. So you might need to use that in conjunction with this to make sure that you're spelling things correctly. And it gives you the microfilm number of the Meyer Orts book. Over on the left, I put in Film Fiche Image Group. If you click on that and you put one of those numbers, those Meyer Orts numbers at 496640, it'll pull up the book. You'll be able to go into the digital image because you can search for digital images in the catalog by film number. I just picked German church records. And what happens is this, whoops. This becomes expanded when you pick on a subject right there, and this is what it looks like. It is giving you titles to stuff, to books, to microfilm, And when you click on that, it will give you the full library record like you're used to looking at, and it will show you whether it's been microfilmed and whether you can access it. It will say if there's a digital image, and there will be a link there that will take you to the digital image of one of these titles that you have chosen if it's there. So using the catalog is important also. Our library catalog, what do we have? At houstonlibrary.org, you're going to look at the top. This is what the web page looks like. You're going to have to click on the catalog button. The default is the website button. So you're going to have to click on the catalog button. I put in Germany genealogy. It's a keyword search. Up came 760 results. We, like Dallas Public, are part of the larger full library catalog. You have to limit down to Clayton. I've clicked on library, I've clicked on Clayton. I originally had 760 results. I think I had 754. There were a few other books outside in the regular library, but these are the kind of books that we have here at Clayton. And you can see, although I said we didn't use the Dewey system, this is a Virginia book. You can see the shelf number there. Here's a couple other ones just to show you what we have. Some of the stuff is in Germany. Some of the stuff is in the state area. This is a book in Ohio, Early German Village History, South Columbus, Ohio. You can utilize our catalog, our library catalog, and then take the title and then go back up to the Dallas Public Library catalog and see if you guys have the book there. So using the Dallas Public Library catalog, I put in German genealogy, and we got 404 books. So utilizing the Family Search catalog, if you find a book, then you just come back to us or come back to Dallas. You could take the books from Dallas or from us and go into the Family Search catalog and see if they've been digitized. So there are a number of ways to utilize the library catalogs. So we have gone over a lot of stuff. We went over the books. Remember, all the books that I talked about are on your handout. You can click on that handout and you'll get the publication information. You'll see where it is on our catalog. You can take that title, go to Family Search, go to Dallas. You can utilize Family Search through the Wiki. You can utilize Family Search through the catalog. There's a lot of stuff. What you got? Got any questions? If you have questions for us, this is our email address and this is our phone number, and these are our hours of the library. Bernard wanted me to mention that Houston Public Library gives a library card to anybody in Texas. When you go to our library website, which is houstonlibrary.org, there's a link there to get a library card. It's an electronic card. And what that will do is it will get you into our databases and some, electronic books and other things if you're interested in that. But we have a subscription to MyHeritage, which is available remotely, which is strong in European information. So you go to houstonlibrary.org, click on get a library card. I think it might say get a MyLink card. Sign up for it online, and then you'll go to the genealogy databases, and there's MyHeritage there. Got any questions in the chat? Let's see.
Oops. You have put in the chat, by the way, the link to the handout.
Okay.
Or the handout itself. You can click on it in chat and that'll pull up. And we've also got on our website. And like I say, this session's been recorded. And once we do a little processing of that very shortly, that will appear as well on the website. So if you missed something or want to go back and look at another one of those and translate the titles, you're welcome to do that. So let's see, you had the question. Barbara. Or do you want to unmute and ask it, or? I think she's
I
on
have
the phone.
unmuted myself and now I've lost my question. I don't know how I can read it. Let me see. Chat. Okay, here we go. I just thank you for your presentation. It was really wonderful, information dense and clear. My question is, where in Texas did Germans mostly end up? I know Fredericksburg is one possible place, and I'm wondering about Pecos because my German grandmother, first generation American, her parents emigrated from Germany and she was raised in Grand Rapids, Michigan. But she emigrated after getting married to Pecos, Texas in 1911. And she lasted there for months, not years, because of a lot of things, not the least of which was she couldn't get food she needed to cook. She then migrated to Dallas, which she loved. So I'm wondering if there were spots in Texas where German groups got together and had German newspapers and things like that.
Well, there are some German Texan books. First of all, there's the Germans in Texas. I don't know if it's earlier, that was put out by, what's the museum that's in San Antonio? There's that whole series of books. The Germans in Texas, the Swedes in Texas.
Okay, I don't know about it, but
yeah, so there's that. Yeah, there's that whole series. I would, and whatever there's that museum, the Cultural Museum in San Antonio. I can't think of the name of it, but they were the publisher of those books. They were the publisher of those books. The other thing is so, but it was like the 1900s, right?
yes.
There are social statistics for the censuses. I mean, you could go into the 1910 census and just start looking around, in that area to see if there were other German surnames, okay? But there are social statistics that are attached to the regular census. And if you put in the social statistics census and put in 1910, it might break down how many German ethnicities were in each county in Texas. I don't know.
And this is Bernard. I've done a presentation, early German settlers to Texas. A lot came in, with the land grants, or right after, a little bit before, but mostly after statehood. And that was 1840s and 50s, and a lot around San Antonio, and even going back down towards Houston. There's sort of a German belt of Texas. So the Pecos is pretty far out west there, that probably most of them, like I say, would be sort of southeast Texas. You're talking 1911, so that was right before World War I. Once World War I came in, it was not politically expedient to be German, so a lot of the German schools closed, the German newspapers, shortly after 1911, but before then, they were still there. But probably not that many ended up in West Texas as such.
Yeah, I would wonder why, what was in Pecos? Did she marry somebody from Michigan that moved them to Texas?
Well, it's a bit of a long story. She married a fellow from her high school class who graduated from the Wharton School in Philadelphia, and he turned down a job in the bank, moved back to Grand Rapids, married her. She'd been studying in Stuttgart piano. And I think that he was just taken with that notion, go west, young man, go west. And so they took the train to the end of the railroad tracks to the green belt of West Texas, which was Pecos. And that was advertising that got them all the way to Pecos.
Yeah.
And
So, I wonder if that's your answer.
Well, yeah, it may be, but I was wondering if they went to Pecos because of German, cultural heritage or something. I just don't know.
What county? I would maybe look at some county histories. Maybe there was whatever county it is. Was there a county history that was written like, in the 1970s or later that would go back and talk about that time period? That might be something to do. I would say, what was going on in that county other than your go west young man story? What else? Why, why?
Yeah. And she was in Stuttgart just prior to World War I and left Germany and probably stopped her studies there because of World War I coming along.
Mhm.
And Barbara Ware is reminding us, thanks, Barbara, University of Texas, San Antonio Institute of Texas Cultures.
Thank you. Thank you.
Brenda, do you want to ask your question?
Yeah, if I can find my mute button and unmute, sorry.
You're good.
Mine's all about the immigration ports. I guess I'm wondering, what the most popular ports were in the 1700s. We have a lot of ancestors that came through in the 1700s, and was it only Galveston for the Texas area? Besides, I know you mentioned also New Orleans. Were there other, where my ancestors migrated here to Texas? Were there popular ports along this coastline,
In the
possibly.
1700s? In the 1700s?
Yeah.
Well, first of all, you're now in the 1700s, you're now doing colonial research, and that's probably English research. And you're not going to get any ship passenger lists prior to, I think, even 1820. But Bernard, did they settle in the 1700s in Texas? Or
1700s, it was part of Spain. Even
yeah,
it wasn't even
that's
Mexican
right. Yeah,
independence yet.
That's right.
And most folks were coming over from Germany. Was New Orleans was the place.
That was the main place. Well, I don't find anything so far in New Orleans, but I find ancestors with German heritage in Georgia, and then they later came over to Texas.
Oh.
Yeah, Oglethorpe, if you know the name, for Georgia, was interested in bringing folks in. They did the same thing in Virginia as well, that they needed people. And they also wanted people to be between the British and the Native Americans, because the Native Americans were not terribly happy of all these British coming in, taking over the land. So they were looking for a buffer. So they said, put the Germans out there on the frontier, let them fight the Indians. So, and then maybe then, once they make their initial point of settlement, then they subsequently migrate to Texas. But later on, in 1700s, even to get from Georgia to Texas, you'd almost have to be by boat. And I'm going to think even the history of Galveston, 1700, it was not much of a place, if any.
Yeah.
So, and certainly there'd be no records that, the ship docked and everybody got off and they said, have a good life, and off you went.
Bernard, we have that series called, there's a series called the Cuban Papers. Okay. And the Cuban Papers, they're called the Cuban Papers because they were housed in Cuba, but they're Spanish government documents. Okay. From that time period, from that whole early settlement of the Gulf Coast, from Florida all the way in, the problem is first of all, they're not digitized. Second of all, they're in Spanish and French, and there's really not an index, and there's about 1,500 rolls of microfilm. You can use them, but they're called the Cuban Papers. If you look that up and get some history on them, I don't know, but that would be and we have some early Gulf Coast settlement material in microfilm. And we have a microfilm. I'm going to show you. Let me get out of here. We have a microfilm guide to our holdings. If I could get my pointer back over here. On our when you go to HoustonLibrary.org, we just changed the website last week, and so it is. Let me get in here. It's across the top, it says research help now. And then if you click on research help, that's where you get to our genealogy databases. Can you guys still see my screen? Let me see.
Just the presentation.
Okay, hang on. Okay. Stop sharing and then let me share again. I'll show you. Okay. Here's your cat, Tony. So our website, let's see. Okay, I don't know why it says that. I should be on the Wi-Fi. I wonder if it's because I'm sharing. I should be able to get on the Wi-Fi. If you go to houstonlibrary.org, across the top, it'll say research help. And then I think it says, if you click on research help, then another page will open. If you click on genealogy, that opens up our genealogy research page. On that research page, you'll see our databases, and that's where you'll be able to get to MyHeritage. But then if you nose around, there's something called a microprint catalog.
Okay.
And that microprint catalog, okay, I got it now. Hang on. It'll be easier to show you. Okay. All right, here we go. All right. So see where it says research right here? If you click on that, then you click on genealogy. You guys are seeing my screen, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. All right. So here's our databases, and there's where you're going to be able to get MyHeritage after you get your library card, okay? But over here, this microprint database, if you click on that, that's our microprint holdings. And you'll be able to put in, you know, Florida or Texas, and you'll be able to see, I don't know if I can, you know, you'll be able, do you still see my screen now?
Yes. Yeah.
So you see the search screen? Yeah, okay. So, you know, USA, and then you can put in state. Let's hope it works because they changed. Yeah, see, so actually there's a lot of them. There's 1,500 records right here. But you know, you can play around with it and see, here's early census reports. And this is microfilm that we have. You would have to come in and look at it, but if you clicked on it, it'll give you the title. And then again, you can take that title and go back out to Family Search and see if they have the microfilm. Or you can come here, you know, I mean, but that's where some really early Gulf Coast, see, index to Texas colonists. And that's where the Cuban papers would be, but they're hard to use.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, and Patricia, you had a question? Okay, you're still muted. There you
Okay.
go.
Yes, I came in late and I apologize on that. I have a family Bible that is German, and births and deaths and marriages had been written in the end papers, and what town or village or whatever. But it's that fancy scripty writing that they taught in German schools back when. And would you have a contact of somebody that knows how to read that? Because I don't do German, and I definitely don't do calligraphy.
You know, I don't. I will say, though, that, you know, Family Search offers consultations. I wonder if they do anything like that. And then there might be Facebook groups. Bernard, do you know of anything?
Yeah, there's a German genealogy group. There's a German translations Facebook group, which is often recommended. And Tony, do we still have the guy at the library there in Dallas who does German
Yeah.
stuff?
There's
Yeah.
an Ed that is there, and he's going to look at it on his free time, but who knows when that would be, because
Yeah, well, the German genealogy group, people post things. You want to post the highest resolution image you can of it so folks can see it. And in many cases, somebody responds in a day or two. There's a
Okay.
couple real dedicated people that sort of do that. And like I say, it sounds like you don't have too much, just a couple pages. If people
Right.
have more, then they often say, well, go to the German translations group. And then there are, professional genealogists who do that sort of stuff all the time.
Okay, and then I had one other question. I apologize again. I came in late. But would Germans have shipped through New York? Because I know that my family was in Ohio, and then they went to Virginia, and then they came to Texas.
Okay, what's the time period? Always in
Uh,
genealogy, it's time and
Late
place.
1800s.
Late 1800s. Okay, by then, yeah, New York was one of the ports that the middle ones, my Meissners came in. They actually sailed from Le Havre, for which there are no passenger lists on that side, but came into New York. And after 1820, there's passenger lists for all those folks. Earlier on, Philadelphia was actually the larger port than New York, but then New York supplanted it. And then, as we've said, New Orleans was another popular port that folks would come in many cases, again, with the ships. Okay, you're bringing people from Europe to America, but what are you taking back? You don't sail back empty. And they were taking a lot of cotton and everything else back, but then they're bringing the cotton over and they say, okay, now we got to go back and we don't want to go empty, so let's put people on the ship. And the shipping companies, particularly later on, that became a big business that the Germans from Russia could be there in what's now like the Ukraine and buy a complete ticket that would get them to the port in Germany, across to America, and then to their destination if they were going to Wisconsin or whatever it might be. So, but yeah, New York became larger and larger after Philadelphia. The time period you're talking about, probably more for the British Isles than German. It was cheaper also to come into Canada. So you always have to.
Where would they have come in through Canada?
They'd come in probably to Montreal.
Okay, I'll write that one down too.
One place. Again, just go as Sue's mentioned. Sue's done a great job of reminding us how to think like a librarian. Go to the Family Search Wiki.
Mm-hmm.
Look for German immigration and the German page, and it'll sort of point out time periods and places to look. As she mentioned, for example, the New Orleans, the lists that were people who were coming in, you may not notice, from Bremen and Hamburg, and the Bremen departure lists are essentially all gone. There's some, but not much. But then you have the arrival lists. In other places like Hamburg, often you can find a departure where they were more likely to ask, where did you come from? Because when they came to the United States, they said, where do you come from? Oh, we're from Germany.
Yeah.
They say, thanks.
Bernard, did you see Barbara's comments in the chat there?
Let's see.
Real quick, back to the Canadian ports. They varied a bit in the summer. They came up the St. Lawrence and landed at Quebec or Montreal, but in the winter, because that was frozen, they landed at St. John or Halifax.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I have a whole branch of Meissners that are in, okay, see there, I just blanked out. Old age, right on the East Coast.
Of Canada or
Canada. Nova Scotia.
Nova Scotia.
Yeah.
Wow, really? Oh,
Yeah, there's a whole slew. I haven't figured out the link yet, but there's a whole bunch there. So.
I've always wanted to go there.
And yeah, Barbara mentioned Baltimore was another big port. Some of my Irish ancestors came into Baltimore, so that was another port. So Philadelphia was the big one, then supplanted by New York, but also Baltimore and New Orleans were sort of the big ones to start looking for.
That gives me a lot to work with. Thank you.
Sure. And I say Family Search Wiki. And they have lots of stuff, not just specific to family search, but to anywhere and everywhere. So.
Yeah, they'll link out. Sure they will. It's all about, effective researching, really.
Okay, do we have any other questions? Okay, well, Sue, thank you so much for a really great presentation. We really appreciate it. Like the idea of the resources you've got. Again, you can get that free library card to get the MyHeritage. Up here, our Euless library still lets you get the fold 3.
Oh, well, you'll be able to get to, we have.
Yeah,
fold
you got fold
two.
3 as well.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Okay.
I didn't know whether you guys had it. Oh, yeah, there's a whole bunch of stuff. I just specifically mentioned
Mhm.
there's newspapers and all kinds of, United States stuff too. So, yeah.
Right. So,
All right.
okay, but thank you so much. Again,
All right.
this presentation's been recorded. Tony, if you want to stop the recording now.
This has been a production of the Dallas Genealogical Society. If you're already a member, thank you. Your fees have been supporting these and other society activities. If you're not yet a member, please consider joining now. Go to dallasgenealogy.org and click on the membership tab.